Hi guys, it's me. It's been a while since I've sent out one of these, but recently my life's been taken a really massive turn, and I am definitely in the mend. It's not the usual amount of malaise that I have. It is has been absolutely crazy, and has been just really difficult to recollect. All the days kind of merged in together, and I managed to paint one painting in the time when I was doing the worst. I remember being short of breath while doing this stream while painting. And it is crazy looking back at my workflow during this time because I can see that I've stumbled a great deal at the early stages of the painting. I kind of started blending a little bit too early because I was having a problem of envisioning the end result of the painting. So that's why I blended early to help assist my brain and boost my ability to see the final image. Because of my illness, I could only do short streams during the time, so I wasn't doing any long sittings of rendering. And looking at it now as a design journal, I guess what I would put into my journal entry would be that I did have anxiety while painting this. I had that artist's anxiety that I refer to in classes, where you instantly do the things that you're not supposed to, that are typical go-to fixes for early stage messes in the brushstrokes. When you run out of patience, and you start applying all of these silly little fixes to things. So I started applying makeup to the image. I started using eyeliner. I thickened and darkened the eyebrows too early. I used a little bit too much black on the hair, though it's never a bad thing to apply some shadow on the hair. Um, it's a good thing to stay away from too much black too early because it might encourage you to use black everywhere else in the process of the face. So the face is a compilation of grayscales. It is a really important process to maintain and manage your grays for as long as possible before you introduce black. So I've covered that over the years together as apprentices. You guys have seen me uh, paint tons of faces, and every single time the black has always been delayed. The pure is black, but look at this, and then you can see how much in canvas anxiety I had. It could have been due to the illness, it could have been due to a succession of just weaknesses, maybe because I hadn't painted in so long. Because on top of all of this, I was also working on my house, and I was moved to a new home, which is very old and needs tons of work. I mean, it was barely livable, but so on top of doing all the renovations and classes on all that, I still had to paint something for you guys. And just for my own, for myself, for my identity as an artist, I wasn't painting. I went 3 months, 4 months without painting a single thing for myself anyway. Every day I paint for my students, but for myself, just to see my brushes again. But once that canvas anxiety fell through, and I started zooming out and being less blendy, and I started, putting in exact brushstrokes around the face. Like for instance, the nose. I did a brushstroke around the upper nostril that completed the nose for me, and it really encouraged me to keep painting. So that was a big plus. It was an amazing little boost to my confidence. And then I said, okay, maybe it just needs I just have a little bit of rust to shake off and move in. And that just was the repetitive kind of pattern that I kept seeing across the painting process for this particular piece. I start off with a anxiety induced brushstroke that is the wrong brushstroke, and then I move on to correct it with the right kind of attitude and brushstrokes. It's like I have a memory of how to paint, and then I just need a couple mistakes to boost that memory. I need to make a mistake to have something to fix. And I think a lot of us forget to work like that. A lot of us are under the illusion that every single brushstroke is the right brushstroke to make if you're a professional. That every brushstroke a professional makes was exact in its accuracy and timing. No, even professionals make two mistakes and fix one, keep one, make three more mistakes, fix two, keep one. If that my math is right, I've lost track of my math already. And that's how it is. It's recursive. It's a backward and forward process of mistakes and fixing, and it really is a very recursive process. And um, anxiety is not what we should replace discipline with. Anxiety doesn't replace discipline. There's never any space for anxiety. If the philosophies are true, and meditation taught us anything, is that anxiety really should not have any role to play, because it'll deter, it'll inhibit more than it boosts, or it works as a catalyst. So discipline is what we need. Discipline is what we need to remember. If I had more discipline, then I should have, started off with much better blocks. I shouldn't have blended so early, because what was the point of blending? I mean, you can see there's a mess of blending under there. What was the point of blending if I was just going to reblock? So I should have just started blocking from the first place. And everything, hindsight's 2020, but we should learn from it as well. We should learn from hindsight. So the next time I paint and I have this horrid urge to start blending because I'm freaking out, the painting isn't looking good, students are watching me, I need to paint. I'm also in like this really sickly state. So I understand why I gave in to the anxiety of the painting and blended too early. But yeah, of course, next time I'll try to remember that I am susceptible to that as much as any student is. Around this time in the painting process, I fell in love with the painting. There was a point of no return that every painting has that's published by all of us. There's a point of no return, and we keep working on it. I loved how the other eye wasn't rendered, though I still wanted to push myself to render it, and you can see how I do render it. But the left eye, the eye that's presented as the, sorry, right eye, her left, is the one that I ended up rendering. I loved the downturn in the eyebrow, that kind of a little bit of a masculine eyebrow, hooded eye. I love painting hooded eyes. They're my favorite thing to paint. I don't like typical eyebrows. I don't like how they look. I don't like how they feel. There's just too much makeup, There's too much makeup invested into the current trending version of what a feminine eyebrow looks like. And the definition of feminine can be that wispy, unplucked eyebrow that kind of falls a little bit and drapes along the corners of the eyes on the outside. I love that kind of eyebrow. It can be very, very delicate, very feminine, like loose leaves. I love that look. I love adding more of a distinguished eye. Even a young character could use a dark circle under the eye. It just shows thought, it shows humanity. So I applied that there. I think this painting was, now that I look at it as a design journal, I think that it was very soothing for me. Apart from the early stage anxiety, which, remember, you are more than allowed to have. If your teacher's exhibiting anxiety, what's to save you? We're all gonna have it. It's just how we handle it with our discipline that changes everything. But yeah, apart from the early stage of anxiety, this painting was very soothing, because her features were all features that I thought were beautiful. I didn't necessarily lean on an unusual, interesting feature in my characters that I usually do. Sorry, I've lost my voice. It's late in the day. All my classes are done, so I kind of have a weaker voice now. But yeah, the mouth, the nose. The nose is a very button-like nose, but it's got that balanced nostril. The head is upturned. It's a very go-to face, and the references I was using were very universal references. The features were easy to balance. The symmetry was there. It was a front-facing painting. I was having a bit of an issue at this stage in the painting. Because it was more, I liked how matte it looked, like a silhouette of the form on the thumbnail. I wanted to keep that, but I wasn't going to deliver it. I wasn't going to present it with the zoom out of that I would as a thumbnail. So it wasn't just a clip art, or it wasn't just a graphic kind of t-shirt design. It was a full-on painting that had to be viewed from a zoom in at a medium level, not completely zoomed in. So I had to bring in some kind of value that allowed more mid-tone variety, mid-tone diversity around the cheeks. I had to introduce some new value. It couldn't just be this, these shades of black and the paper value in the background. I had to make a difference between the value used in the background and the value used on the skin so it looked like a painting and not like a sketch on sketchbook with charcoal. As pretty as that looks, I wasn't pulling it off. I was never going to pull it off. By then I used soft brush too much. And to pull off a charcoal feel, you have to really amp up the sharpness as well as use sharpen tool to pull off that feel. So I wasn't about to, endeavor into a different delivery of the thing that I'd already finished because of the blending, or finished thus far. So I knew I had to change the skin tone to be different from the background. And at this point, things were looking a little bit muddy. The forehead was looking a little bit weak, and too gray. And I start applying more detail, more blending, but the blending wasn't going to do anything because I needed a new value. So I needed to apply an extra cross section, an extra elevation in the altitude to an entirely new value, and move on from there and apply another one on top, and just keep climbing the values until the very highest value was used on the cheek, on the forehead, on the inner corners of the eyes, on the eyelids, on the pupils. There was a lot to be done left with the mouth and making it cylindrical, and then there was balancing what was happening in my references, which I believe were edited somehow. And the faces, of course, were similar and a little bit varied. So then light sources were varied between all of my references, um, and that was an issue. So what I wanted to make sure that I did was I wanted to invest in my own light source, but there's just something that you get out of a reference that you can't duplicate on your own without reference, and I knew I had to respect my references to some level, and continue then. So I broke away from the reference because the reference was edited. It had less value range in it. And then, so one reference is for the lighting, one reference is for the features, and then the rest is all me filling in the areas in between. Um, but once I added in that new level that separated her from the background, she no longer, her negative space in her face was no longer the background color of the painting. So as long as I did that, I felt like, okay, she actually looks like she's in her own space and in her own three-dimensional space, and the background is against assisting the light environment, or part of the light environment assisting her read. And then I fell in love with the painting once again and continued and had a new range to play with. It's like, you run out of sand in the sandbox, you played with all of it and all disappears. You've done only so much. It all turns into whatever it is you're building in the middle of the sandbox. And when you bring in an entirely new range of value, you get more sand to build with. That's the same thing. I ran out of stuff to build with, and I built as much as I could thus far, and I needed a new set of values. I also wanted to do the old Istebrak way. I wanted to start detailing. I wanted to start pushing it a little bit further. I wasn't going for that charcoal painterly amped up sharpness. I did want to make it feel like it was one of my paintings, something that I created, which being who I am, I like to push myself with every painting, push my sit-in threshold, but I was like fighting against actual physical illness, so it was hard fighting against my, how I was feeling, how sick I was feeling, how I wanted to just relax and keep it a soothing session of paint and application, and not turn it into this profound thesis of detail and brushwork. I didn't want everything, not everything has to be an educational opportunity, but because I'm a teacher, I'm always in teacher mode, so I wanted to push myself. I'm as much teaching myself as I am teaching you guys, and I'm always pushing myself to learn what I can next. And the situation being, it was not a good time for me to push myself, so I fall off quite a bit. I take pauses and look away. I talk to my viewers. It may look like a set amount, a set sequence of confident brushstrokes, but I promise you, once I started doing the Istebrak thing, which is detailing, I started getting a lot of anxiety, and then I looked to other parts of the painting to kind of save me from that. It was impossible to track the light the way I wanted to while maintaining the realism, maintaining an actual organic feel to the painting. Some areas, and this was a light coming in from the exact left in her left. So it wasn't what I like. I like top-down light. I've always loved that kind of that Rembrandt setting of the light source, the shadow moving down in the face. And I couldn't do that, so it wasn't my comfort zone. So I turned a soothing kind of session of paint into an educational opportunity, and it ended up with a pretty good result. But at the end of the day, I think I over rendered a little bit. I over rendered the nose, and then it wasn't stylistic that I didn't render the other eye and presented it as an under rendered other eye. I rendered the whole thing, but then the piece that I posted online in front of all of my students and viewers was an unrendered, her unrendered right eye, an unrendered left eye, our left, because to I wanted to have something of what I initially intended, which was a relaxed brush experience. It wasn't gonna be again a thesis of light on form with extra detail and a super rendered book cover type thing. I didn't want it to look like a photograph. Um, and for the first time in a long time, I started painting colored eyes. And I wanted to keep that, but I love the brown eye look. I will always love it. And so I just wanted to try something different, but also keep it a soothing experience, just for painting and relaxation. So it's funny how I challenged myself and finished the whole portrait just to prove to myself to shut myself up, because there was a voice in my head that said, "Oh, you can't draw the other eye. Oh, you want to, but you can't." And that was horrible. I didn't want to listen to that voice anymore. So I still listened to it and I painted it, but next time I paint something similar to this, I'm going to just accept the mistake as it is and try to turn the mistake into part of the presentation, or accept the weak, or just accept the fact that I inherently just didn't want to paint the other eye. I've seen so many cool paintings on Instagram where the nose is only half the nose is rendered, the other half is not rendered, and that's pretty cool. I love that. It's kind of seeing, switch back in time to how the painting used to be, before you started rendering, and you get to appreciate early brushstrokes in the presentation. So you paint only half the face, with half being the early brushstrokes that are clean, and the other half being the completed piece with still some semblance or footprint of brushstrokes used. It was interesting because this painting is like a look into how I think, and it reveals a lot to me about my personality, and kind of how much I push myself, how I really am a workaholic. So design journals are really cool because and by design journal, I mean painting, recording, speeding it up, and just watching yourself draw and just discuss what it is that you were going through and your thoughts on the matter. So yeah, design journals, I really recommend them to everyone. It's so important to take a moment to observe how you work and how you respond to the brushstrokes, how you respond to your own mistakes. Now that I'm watching it, I know what I should have done, but I'm detailing the water droplets in the eyes while there's still these really unclean values around the lower eyelid. And I'm jumping into detail on the mouth, and then I'm just looking at myself paint, and I'm like, Istebrak, like the mistake is right there. Look at the forehead patches, look at the upper cheek. And I just did not see those while I was painting. Again, for many reasons, who knows what it could have been. But it was a lot to do, two references, and being ill, and being a joker that I am while I'm painting with my viewers. But there it is, tons and tons of mistakes I did not see that caused me to over render in other areas of the illustration, which is just crazy how it happens. And then you take a moment from your paint and you come back and everything is so clear. So remember that taking a break, I did a video on that a while back. Take a break. It's really important to take breaks, and take a moment to just look back at your process and look back at your work, and where your biggest triggers are. So for me, the trigger was that I wasn't getting a read and I had no vision of the final result. That's a big trigger for me. That freaks me out and gets me all messed up. And oh, should I blend? Oh, should I do this? And that's just, I have to be very careful the next time I'm starting a painting. I have to take a moment and try to see the vision clearly in my mind before I freak out mid process and ruin my painting, ruin the next attempt. I also discovered in my time away from painting what it is that inspires me, and it's the same as it's always been. It's the music that I play, that inspires a kind of portrayal of a mood. It's a lot to do with the new brush set. I haven't made a new brush set in a while. I've made some brushes, experimental ones I've shared with you guys, and I use them here and there, but it's always been back to my dry brush strokes, and the dry brush set that I made. Um, there's a lot up and down that happens across the year that can inspire me. For instance, in the summertime, I want to paint with more color just because there is more color out in the world. In the wintertime, I tend to get depressed and paint with grayscale. And it might be vice versa. I might paint with more color in the wintertime as a memory of all the colors surrounding us in the summer. Even skies are bluer in the summertime. I don't remember. Skies seem white in the winter. Everything seems grayscale. So it was just coming out of the winter time. It was sick and I was moving and I did not have a stable work environment. My station kept moving. So it has a lot to do with how your station is, how your station looks. But towards the end of the painting, when things got polished, it started to look like a me painting. It started to look like something I'd paint, over detailed, over rendered, not over detailed, but rendered enough, mouth extremely under rendered, and it resulted in the painting kind of looking exactly like how I've envisioned it after my panic attack with the blending. And then I painted the other eye, and just to prove it to myself, but I presented it into my Instagram and my website with no other eye. I just wanted to prove to myself I could paint the other eye. And I think a viewer said, "Hello, are you going to paint the other eye?" And it kind of annoyed me, so I wanted to prove to them too, yeah, I could paint the other eye. Um, but I hope you guys like this journal. I'm really happy to be back. I have was under a lot of treatment, and I'm doing much better now. And I was so excited that I came back negative with the result. This virus has turned all our lives upside down. It has affected our relationships with each other, our relationships with ourselves, our understanding of the workplace, and where we paint, and it's revealed to us whether or not we really are introverts, and those who thought they weren't really. And those who are extroverts learn to be a little bit more introverted and focused inward. I find that I've always worked from home, so I've always been in a quarantine. But it was different this time around when the whole world was kind of feeling it, and everyone was at home, and everyone's painting more, and everyone's reflecting on themselves more. It's different being sick as well, being sick of the problem that is making everyone freak out and stay at home. It was different because I did not have time for art. I did not have time to think. I did not have time to be myself, and it was coupled with the move and moving in after the renovations, and then obviously the renovations, the construction, the dust everywhere, which made my medical situation even worse. It's been crazy. It's been absolutely crazy, and I apologize with all my heart for all the delayed rewards, but I will be sending them out this week. All critiques for March, April, and May. And the May assignment is going to be merged with the June assignment, so you're going to combine those times together. And you will have a book cover assignment, which I hope you guys enjoy. It took my time writing it. I hope you guys like it. I'm so excited to see what you guys paint, and I will see you guys in the next month's reward. So this will account for May reward, and then I hope to find some time in my recovery and as well as the upcoming wave of construction in my house to sit down and paint and have something else for you guys for my next design journal. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.